Good morning. My name is Jonathan Taplin. I started my working life after graduating from Princeton University in 1969 as the tour manager for Bob Dylan and the band. I produced the concert for Bangladesh for George Harrison, and then went on to Hollywood, where I produced Martin Scorsese's two early movies, Mean Streets and The Last Waltz. Over the next 40 years, I produced more movies, ran the media and mergers and acquisition group for Merrill Lynch, started the first streaming video on demand company, and was a professor at the University of Southern California and the director of the Annenberg Innovation Lab. That job put me in contact with many of the tech leaders of our time. Bill Gates once wrote, "I believe it is with great wealth comes great responsibility, a responsibility to give back to society." My new book, The End of Reality, seeks to understand four billionaire tech barons who have a very different view. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Andreessen all grew up in the libertarian church of Ayn Rand, who said, if any civilization is to survive, it is the morality of altruism that men have to reject. If we are to inquire how we got to a place of radical income inequality, the looming potential for a second American Civil War, we need to look no farther than these four. They created the social media where online mobs create chaos, spark runs on stocks, and drag tens of millions of people down the rabbit holes of conspiracy theories. And for that, we reward them with billions of dollars. I use the term techno-determinism to describe the path these men have dictated for us, the future they're now selling to us. A world run by artificial intelligence, crypto fortunes, living in 200 years old, spending our lives in the metaverse or on Mars. It's mostly hype, but because of their wealth, people are buying into this dangerous future. So there are four of the key insights in my book, which I want to share with you. Insight number one, we are in a battle between nature and the machine. I believe that the ultimate goal of these prophets of modernity is to replace nature with technology, to rebuild our society in such a way that a few of them might fulfill the most primal human dream, to become gods. When the Google CTO, Ray Kurzweil, who has promoted the idea of the singularity, that is the moment when artificial intelligence will be able to surpass the brain power of humans and will be able to evolve on its own. When he was asked if he believed in God, he replied, "Not yet." But by 2045, Kurzweil believes that we will have entered the age of spiritual machines, where humanity will no longer be the most intelligent or the dominant species on the world. Last year, thousands of Hollywood actors and writers went on strike because the question of whether art will be created by men or machines are up for grabs. One thing I'm sure of, an AI chatbot will never create the kind of work of genius that has moved our culture forward over the millennia. As the critic Harold Bloom wrote, all genius is idiosyncratic and grandly arbitrary. AI operates on the theory that all the possible original in the universe are already contained in the data sets they have ingested from the internet. There's nothing idiosyncratic about its input. The rise of AI as a cultural creator will only lead to mass mediocrity. To understand the political and society danger luring the technocrat schemes, we should recognize that there are two views of the future on offer. One argues that the collective investment priorities of our society should go towards solving issues like the climate crisis, the mental health emergency, income inequality, and the lack of affordable housing. But the other view, the one held by the technocrats, is much darker. In this version of the future, artificial intelligence and robots ruled by the technocrats will do most of the work, and a large portion of the population will sit at home, living a fantasy life in the metaverse, subsisting on universal government-paid universal basic income. And anyone who thinks this is some kind of dystopian fantasy should visit Amazon's R&D facility, as I have, to see the future of a whole warehouse operating by 5 humans and 5,000 robots. In April 2022, the Association for Advanced Automation reported that U.S. orders for work rights robots had increased 40% in the first quarter compared with the same period last year. Insight number 2, truth matters. As Yale professor Timothy Snyder has said, to abandon facts is to abandon freedom. If nothing is true, then all is spectacle. The biggest wallet pays for the most blinding lights. Today, the biggest wallet belongs to Elon Musk. In the final weeks of campaigning, Argentine President-elect Javier Milei published a fabricated image depicting his Peronist rival Sergio Massa as an old-fashioned communist in military garb, his hand raised in salute. The AI-generated image drew some 3 million views when Milei posted on his Twitter X account. So here is Elon Musk helping your president put his finger on the scales of democracy. Ultimately, Musk and his fellow technocrats are not libertarians yearning to be free of the chains of government regulation, but rather are what we call here crony capitalists, succeeding by manipulating politicians on their behalf. As the New York Times reported at this very moment, Musk is manipulating your president to aid his companies and repaying the favor by promoting Milei on X to his 130 million followers. Here's what they wrote. Days before Milei's inauguration in December, he spoke with Musk directly for the first time, and Mr. Musk asked about Argentine's lithium. In the months since, Mr. Milei has been pushing legislation that would make extracting Argentina's lithium far more attractive for foreign investors. His sweeping bill, which would grant him broad emergency power over Argentina's economy and energy for the next year, includes a major benefit for Tesla, significant incentives for foreign investors in large projects, particularly in mining. Such companies would receive substantial tax cuts, customs exemptions, and foreign exchange benefits, as well as tax and regulatory certainty for the next 30 years. Tesla's lithium supplier is likely to qualify. If so, Mr. Milei's plan would give Tesla unusual stability and predictability in its access to lithium in Argentina until at least 2054. The proposal passed Argentina's lower chamber of Congress on April 30th. Mr. Musk has already seen other dividends from Mr. Milei. And one of his first acts as president, Mr. Milei passed an executive order with 366 provisions. When summarizing the highlights of the order in a televised address, Mr. Milei mentioned just one corporate brand by name, Starlink. Starlink, owned by Musk, has been trying for years to promote its satellite internet in Argentina. Now it had the go-ahead. So how is this any different from the exploitation of Argentine resources in the 19th century by British capitalists? I don't think it is. Insight number 3. Is this really a culture war? We're told we are fighting a culture war. If there was a culture war in 1966, we didn't pay much attention to it. Sure, there were plenty of people saying, why don't you get a damn haircut or turn down that awful music? But we paid them no mind. By contrast, today we are fighting an epic culture war over an algorithm-driven mass culture, the majority of which is both decadent and trivial. Social media is set up to create outrage, so the algorithms advance the most outrageous posts from either side of this phony war. I know in my country the fear that transgender men are competing in women's sports is not one of the most important issues facing my country. But you would never know that from the far right-wing media. Today, the core attributes of our culture are narcissism and escape. In a recent interview about the metaverse, Mark Andreessen said, quote, reality has had 5,000 years to get good and is still woefully lacking for most people. We should build, and we are building, online worlds that make life and work and love wonderful for everyone, no matter what level of reality or deprivation they find themselves in. History has proven that fantasy is both a brilliant marketing tool and a powerful political tool. The technocrats are employing it in both spheres. In the commercial realm, Musk floats the notion that we will escape our planet's inevitable extinction by building a new civilization on Mars. Mark Zuckerberg promises you can escape the dreary reality of your life by putting on a MetaQuest VR helmet. Andreessen suggests we can fight wars without human casualties with the autonomous weapons systems he is developing. And you can get rich just by purchasing the Bored Ape NFTs he is selling. And Thiel markets the greatest fantasy of all. You can live forever. Insight number 4. Are you part of the problem or part of the solution? Our task is to ask ourselves whether we want to continue down this road of techno-determinism and surveillance capitalism, or whether we want to join the resistance movement. I saw that movement every day on the picket lines around Hollywood studios last year. I see that resistance in the 10,000 signatures on the Authors Guild letter to the AI barons asking to be paid when their AI systems train on their books. I see the resistance in the fact that only 11% of kids 14 to 22 are using generative AI tools more than once or twice a month. Nobody is actually using it in the younger generation. You can be part of that movement as well. Don't believe this nonsense about libertarianism. Don't buy crypto. Take a day off each week to observe a digital Sabbath where you and your family put your mobile devices in a locked box for a day. Don't fall for the metaverse hype. Your president is very good at sucking up to the billionaires. As the New Yorker reported, speaking before the global billionaire elite at Davos this January, Milei declared, quote, "Let no one tell you your ambitions are immoral. You are social benefactors. You are heroes," unquote. Musk himself tweeted an enthusiastic reply by way of a meme, a man having sex with an attractive woman stares at a laptop screen on which Milei is giving his speech. I think that our desire for a brighter future, I was reminded of a quote from Albert Camus' The Rebel, his long meditation about the role of artists and their audience in resistance movements. He wrote, "We are at the extremities now. At the end of this tunnel of darkness, however, there is invariably a light, which we already divine and for which we only have to fight to ensure its coming. All of us among the ruins are preparing a renaissance beyond the limits of nihilism." So I ask you to talk to your children and your grandchildren about what it means to be human, to reject the nihilism they see every day in our culture. Maybe they will look up from their phones and discover there is a renaissance beginning to be birthed in Argentina that involves making things, not just consuming things, and they can be part of it. Perhaps then my generation and our kids will have fulfilled their deferred destiny. Thank you.